welcome back to the Mindful of You podcast. This is episode 28, my advice for Candace Flynn. So I don't know how many days into it we are, but there's 104 days of summer vacation. And I'm going to take one of those days, one of these podcast days, and chat with you about Candace Flynn. So if you have no idea what on earth I'm talking about, you may not have grown up in the same generation as me, and that's fine. But I'm talking about a show called Phineas and Ferb. It's a cartoon that was on Disney Channel when I was a kid. And I'll be real, it still gets turned on sometimes. One of my favorite shows. If you might have seen this show if you're familiar with the character called Doofenshmirtz or like Perry the Platypus. Very exciting, very repetitive show, but also very clever writing, funny scripts, all of the above. Anyway, there's a character in this show her name is Candace Flynn. She's the sister of two brothers named Phineas and Ferb. So the general plot here is that Phineas and Ferb are very creative, adventurous 12 to 13-year-old boys who love to invent stuff and build stuff. And basically they take every day of summer and they try to make the most of it by building or making something absurd or crazy. So this is a cartoon world, so it's as crazy as you can think of. They build spaceships, time machines, giant roller coasters, giant water slides. They build a beach in the backyard. They do lots of pretty sick stuff. So Candace, who this episode is about today, is their older sister. And her primary purpose in the show is to, quote, bust her brothers for everything that they're doing this summer. So pretty much every episode has the same plot where Phineas and Ferb come up with something they want to do. And Ferb, I know what we're going to do today. And then they do the thing. Candace notices them starting to do the thing, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to tell on them. I'm going to tell my mom they're doing this. Every time she's trying to hunt down her mom, bring her back from wherever she is to show her what her brothers are doing. And then by the time they get back, through magical circumstances, usually through Doofenshmirtz, Dr. Doofenshmirtz and whatever he's doing, their invention or whatever has disappeared. And so it's the same repeat story pretty much every episode where Candace is determined to bust her brothers and ultimately fails. So, something I've noticed about this character is she's generally pretty angry or unhappy, or just her emotions are really up and down. And she's usually not having the best time. There's a lot of forces working against her and her goal of busting her brothers. So I thought it would be really fun to do an episode where I give her some advice. Now, this advice is not necessarily on how to bust her brothers or make that happen, but I want to give Candace some advice on how to make her mind a better place to live and make her life a little bit more enjoyable. So I have 5 pieces of advice for her, and I want you to think if any of this applies to you. So please keep in mind, I know this is a TV show and a TV character. I'm not trying to diagnose her with anything. This is just a fun way for me to point out and, poke fun at some of the things that we all do in our heads that might be a little bit silly, and, give some advice on how we can maybe not make Candace's same mistakes and live a more enjoyable, peaceful, or whatever life that you want to live. So 5 pieces of advice for her. Number 1 piece of advice is stay in your lane. You may have heard this before in regards to work. If somebody says, yeah, my coworker just won't stay in her lane, that means that They have a coworker who is maybe trying to do their work or is trying to critique their work or get involved in areas of work that have nothing to do with their job description or what they were assigned to do. So sometimes in the show, Candace is supposed to be like babysitting, in which case you could argue that it is her lane to watch out for her brothers. But usually the concern isn't, danger. She just has like this need to show that her brothers are doing something they're not supposed to. So I would give her the advice to stay in her lane a little bit more and focus on what she's doing with her life and what she can do to make sure that she has a great day. So sometimes that might be joining in with whatever her brothers are doing. Usually the whole neighborhood is, because it's freaking awesome. So she could join in, or she has a boy who eventually becomes her boyfriend. She could hang out with him, call him. She has a best friend. She could go hang out with her best friend, go to the movies. There are many things she could do to stay in her lane and let her brothers do what her brothers will do. Oftentimes her dad's even home, or her stepdad is home. So maybe his lane is to keep an eye on what the boys are doing. Whether he is or not could be none of her business, right? And so if she's able to stay in her lane and realize what's her responsibility, what's not her responsibility, all of a sudden she leaves room to be able to enjoy the other facets of her life. I've been listening to a podcast called the Anxious Love Coach podcast. Really, really good. I highly recommend it. But she talks about not looking at your partner's paper a lot, is how she refers to kind of staying in your lane. So when you're constantly like nitpicking at somebody or nitpicking at what people are doing, you're looking at their paper and you're not focusing on doing your paper or answering the problems that are right in front of you for your paper. So that's my first piece of advice for Candace. Look at your own paper, focus on your own problems, stay in your lane. My second piece of advice for her is to maintain boundaries. So not gonna lie, sometimes the things Phineas and Ferb are doing could be construed as annoying, especially for a teenage girl. If she's, wanting to listen to music or relax in her bedroom and there's like cranes and like really loud noises happening outside of her. So this is hard because it's not fully under her control, to control them. Obviously she tries to, but, maybe requesting that they don't start until a certain hour. And if they're going to start at a certain hour, then maybe she has them invent some like really nice headphones for her or something like that. So I'm going to do an episode on boundaries eventually, even if it's a repeat of some stuff I've already talked about. Generally, boundaries are something that, maybe we make a request of somebody, but usually boundaries have more to do with what you're going to do. So maybe if they keep starting really early, she's going to, talk to her parents and be like, hey, sometimes, Phineas and Ferb are doing stuff really early in the morning. Can you help them not do that? Or she gets really good headphones. She's a little trapped there, but that was the main thing I could think of was, like maybe she's frustrated that there's really loud noises that are bothering her, and maybe there's some boundaries she could put in place around that. So, then my third piece of advice for her is learn to be flexible. So Candace is probably like the most inflexible character out there. Oftentimes when she's trying to get her mom to like come look at whatever Phineas and Ferb have invented or done, she's very like, you need to do this right now. Like, I need you to come with me right now and see what they're doing. And she doesn't know how to, adapt to somebody else's schedule. Like, this mom's pretty cool. Like, freaking Linda, she's got stuff to do. Like, sometimes she's with the girlies playing bridge, or sometimes she's out shopping, or she is even, I think, in a band, and I think she's sometimes doing that stuff. So anyway, lady's got stuff to do, and Candace is really bad at adapting to her schedule. And I actually think if she would chill a little bit and be like, hey mom, when you're done at the store, I have something to show you, things would go a lot better for her. But instead she's like pushing her mom all over the place, calling her over and over again. has no flexibility, no boundaries or anything towards her mom's life and her mom's schedule, and she doesn't know how to be flexible and go with the flow of that. On top of that, like when her brothers are doing something crazy, she doesn't have the flexibility to be like, maybe that could be something I would enjoy today. She very occasionally has episodes where she does join in, and it's always awesome. Like the backyard beach episode, she ends up joining in and having a lot of fun. And yeah, and it's awesome. And she should do that more and be flexible and go with the flow of what they're doing. My fourth piece of advice for her is to appreciate those who love her. So, Phineas and Ferb, I kid you not, adore this girl. They adore Candace. They're always trying to include her, make sure she's having a good time. Like there's an episode where they go to space and they build their own rocket, but they also build a rocket for their sister. But she's so blinded by the fact that, she's bugged by them, bugged by what they're doing, that she doesn't usually, I think a couple times she maybe does, but she doesn't usually even notice or care about anything that they're doing for her. And I think that she could really benefit from noticing and appreciating those who really love her and care about her. The number one offendee of this issue, though, is her boyfriend. Oh my gosh, her boyfriend loves her so much and loves her craziness, loves that she wants to bust her brothers and whatever, but I also think he wishes she could relax at times. Jeremy is just the dream boyfriend of all the girlies from my generation, at least of me. Is really flexible, knows how to maintain a high maintenance gal. She, not that she doesn't appreciate him, I think she does. I just don't think she realizes how much he actually loves her because she's too busy feeling insecure about herself and insecure about everything that they're doing, that she doesn't recognize or appreciate how much she's loved. So I would encourage you to look around and like maybe think about, you've got problems in your life, we all do, but are there people that are like in your core, like rooting for you? Like, do you have people who are consistently there for you that are like behind your back? For me, I know like behind your back sounds bad. They've got your back. That's what I mean. Like for me, that's definitely like my parents. Like they've got my back. They support me no matter what. And they are legitimately cheering me on. Like I can tell them the most mundane thing, like that happened to me at work or something that's even like a bare minimum thing. Like, oh my gosh, I made it on time to work every day this week. Like that sounds sad, but my parents would be proud of me for that. They'd be like, way to go, Mal. Like that's awesome. And like, they're always so supportive of my mental health journey, everything I do with this podcast. And with Mallory Joe Mindfulness, they're like, that's awesome. Keep it up. Way to go. And so you've got those people. I know you have at least one because, well, I'd even say at least two, but like God and Jesus Christ are always there for us, cheering us on like that and letting us know, hey, like I see you. I see you. I see how hard you're trying. And they're proud of us. And I'll throw myself in there. I might not know you personally. I might know you personally, but whether I do or don't, I'm cheering you on. Like, you've got this. I'm totally in your corner. So that fourth piece of advice was appreciate those who love her or appreciate those who love you. So my fifth and final piece of advice for Candace Flynn of Phineas and Ferb, is to have fun. That's always like the final rule in elementary school. Like they'll be like, oh, don't pull on each other's hair. Make sure you always go to the bathroom with a buddy and don't forget, have fun. And they make it like a rule. But that really would be my last piece of advice for her. She's so blinded by like her anxiety and things that she thinks aren't going how they should that she doesn't know how to kick back and have fun. And oh my gosh, I can't relate to anything more. Like sometimes I could totally be having a really good time, but I'm still worked up about the fact that I was 20 minutes late, or that we were 20 minutes late because my husband was like taking too long to get ready or something. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'll look back later and be like, that could have been a really good time, but I was too busy being mad, or I was too busy being stressed. And honestly, I think it just takes practice of learning to take deep breaths when things go wrong, and also incorporating the learn to be flexible advice of just like, things don't go perfectly. And even when they don't go perfectly or as expected, I can still have a really great time. Like, I know, my husband and I go to Disneyland a lot. We love Disney. And I've had times where like rides aren't open and I'm so frustrated, or like, things shut down or fireworks don't happen or something like that. And I'm like, dang, like this is not going according to my plan. But my gosh, I'm still in Disneyland. Like, there's definitely fun to be had. And usually the most fun I have isn't planned. Like, I remember one time I was just super tired. So we just sat down at a restaurant, like an outdoor restaurant. And then a band got up and started playing, and they were so good. And it was so fun to watch them play. And that was not a part of my thoroughly thought out schedule. It's something that just happened. And so make sure in life that you're keeping your eyes open for the cool things happening around you, and that if you have the chance to join in, because, oh, goodness knows, Candace Flynn could have joined in on so many fun things that were happening right in her backyard, and she chose to be grumpy and not join in. So anyway, I hope this wasn't too silly for you guys, and that you were able to take something away from this. If you don't watch Phineas and Ferb at all, you're probably a little confused, so I apologize for that. But it's on Disney Plus if you want to check out an episode. If you don't love it as much as I do, that's totally okay, but at least you'll kind of know who this character is, what I'm talking about. So anyway, that is all for this week. On Sunday, there will be a bonus episode. I try to do a bonus episode every first Sunday of the month, which is what's considered Fast Sunday for members of my faith. So I will be working on that episode as well. I will be talking about Russell M. Nelson's talk, Peacemakers Needed. One of the most famous talks from, I believe it was just this last session of conference and of general conference. And he talks about some really great things. And so I've been studying the talk and thinking a lot about what I think I can add or expound upon that he's already explained so eloquently. So that's what you can expect for Sunday. Make sure to check it out. If you like this episode and know somebody who also loves Phineas and Ferb, send it to them. Make sure you're following the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. And yeah.